I love that we were both like, hi.
It counts down. So we're like,
I know. We're like, hey, look, we're live. Yay. Look, it even said so.
I will share this. Every time. Oh,
look,
there it is.
Live.
There it is. Share.
Oh,
share.
Yes.
Share.
Yay.
Don't. Okay. Shh. Stop talking. I feel like every time you guys watch us for the first minute, just fiddle around. Join us. There we are. Join us. Okay. Now you're the one talking. Today we're going to talk about. Well, your phone is talking. I feel like every time. Today we're going to talk about some interesting aspects of politics, which is shame.
We're going to talk about shame.
Which I think we should define it, because it was really helpful for me a couple years ago when Brené Brown defined shame for me.
I love that talk. Her shame talk is one of my most favorite talks. And vulnerability, that's the other one I love.
Yeah, she did 2 TED Talks. So you should, if you want a really quick summary of all her books, just go listen to her TED Talks. But she defined shame as saying that what you do is kind of who you are. Meaning, my children, for example, I'll say might make a bad decision. Let's say they stole something. To shame them would mean to say you're a terrible person for stealing.
Yes.
The opposite of that is saying you made a really bad decision stealing. So there's two. It's different. So shame is really wrapped around our identity, and it often is wrapped around things we've done or not done, said or not said, believe or not believe. And people will say that you are a poor human being because of it. So as a parent, it's been really wonderful to be trying to set my children up to not feel shame when they do something wrong, but to feel guilt. Because guilt hopefully causes them to not do it again.
I like it.
But it's not who they are. It's just what they're doing that needs to change.
It's the behavior.
So when my 5-year-old says, Mom, there was this kid at recess and he was a bully and he's a bad kid, I'll be like, Harper.
Hi, Corey.
He's not a bad kid. He just made a bad decision.
Yeah. we make good choices and we make bad choices.
Yeah. And we should stop labeling people as good people and bad people so that we don't internalize that and call ourselves terrible when we're not. We just messed up.
Right.
So that's where I think we're kind of landing on our definition of shame, and then also how we're talking about how that involves politics.
Yes. So we decided to talk today about how we have experienced shame, or how we personally experience shame around policies that are defined as Democrat or Republican or conservative or liberal.
Yep.
So I'm going to let you start.
Okay.
Because this was your genius idea.
Well, it started because shame about my house. And you said, let's talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about shame around Amy's house is perpetually clean and magic. And I think she's amazing about it.
Okay, so here's the intro. Here's why we want to talk about shame. As I said, it's amazing what you can feel shame about. I feel shame about how clean my house is all the time, because I function in a clean, organized space. That's where I find peace. I'm the best mom. I'm present when it's not chaos around me. My space very much influences how I feel. But I feel like women will say, I spent time with my kids instead of the dishes, a win for me. And I'm over here going, I have no dishes in my sink. Does that mean I'm not a present mom?
Right. And I'm sitting here in my somewhat chaotic, dirty house. It's kind of dirty. I have a cleaning person.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I don't clean. So
I want to clean.
I do laundry like no other, but I don't clean.
No, you don't clean. I need someone to dust my blinds. All the dust, the
amazing
baseboards, things like that.
I need someone to just dust.
Yeah. I don't know.
I love your house.
Thank you.
I'm jealous of your house. But I get shame because my house isn't clean enough. So, of course, I put it on myself most of the time. Anyway, if you're here, say hi, because otherwise we don't know you're here. But I can see that 5 people are watching us, so that's kind of cool.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because if you know someone like me who always has an immaculate house and you're thinking, oh, what does she think when she comes over? I have zero expectations about other people's houses.
I'm totally over that.
But people assume that I'm staring at the dust bunny in the corner of your living, and I'm not. And so don't project on me expectations I have of you that I don't.
Right.
And let's just let each other do our thing. Like me be me, you be you, and we're good.
Yeah. And
but no
not
more
shaming other moms for not being perfect would be nice.
So she said, let's talk about that.
So I said, let's talk about shame. And then she was like, well, let's talk about shame in politics. And I was like, ooh, what a delightful idea. So tell me your first shame thing.
So what we discussed is, well, you already said. So two ways that I feel like conservative positions shame people with these liberal positions. And the first is, no, I said that backwards, but how we feel shamed as conservatives. And one of them is immigration. So I feel like the conservative stance on immigration, people will say, you are all heartless. That liberals will shame us. You are heartless. That you don't want to help these people who are trying to come out of a terrible place. Obviously, they thought trekking all the way here,
right,
and the dangers of that was worth it, and you're going to send them all back. So
or put them in cages,
or
separate them from their children.
Yeah. Okay. So I know a lot of conservatives that believe in security, border security, who do not think it's okay that children are in cages and that kids are separated from parents, and there's empathy. What do you do in the position where you have the empathy? I hope we can assume I do. And we believe that secure borders is what's best for our country, where there is a process in place. The process is not just closed doors to anyone, but there is a process in place, and we have to enforce it for our own security and safety. If I had that belief and ability to empathize with immigrants, it gets messy. It's the both and, the both and that we like to embrace. But I feel like there's a lot of shame and misunderstanding of people who say, put up a wall to reinforce the borders. We don't believe that dehumanizing people is ethical or right at all. But I do want secure borders. And I feel like there's a lot of shame coming at them for believing that.
I think this is a really important thing to talk about. Hi, Stacey. So I feel like this is a really important thing to talk about, because what I hear when you talk is that people who are liberal don't agree with a secure border, because that is the creation of the language, right? Like if we're going to create a polarized conversation around immigration, we have to believe that you all believe in like hyper security and a big giant wall and all of the things. And our side, the progressive side, the liberal side, has to believe that
a free for all.
It's a free for all. Everybody can come.
Everybody.
Yay!
Party
no security,
USA,
right?
Miley Cyrus,
right? Party in the USA. I love Miley Cyrus. She's awesome. She's trouble. I like that. That we are all about this flexible membrane on the border, and everybody should come in and have just be let in no matter what. And I feel like that shaming us for not wanting security is, and our side shaming you all for being hyper secure is the way to not focus on what's really happening at the border. And what's really happening at the border is a very desperate human rights issue that we should all be paying attention to, because it does not help our economy to have a whole bunch of people who are not coming into the country legally, to not have a road that they can go down to come in legally, because it keeps them in poverty. By staying illegal, by not having a process, we've created a whole entire cohort of humans that have to stay underground and work under the table and be in secret. But they still have to feed their families, and they still have to work, so they still have to figure out how to access resources.
I have a question for you. I claim naivety on some things. I don't know. Is there a process for undocumented immigrants here in the country to start the process even though they're here?
I don't technically know, because I don't know either.
If you know,
tell us. But I know that if there wasn't all this shame and stigma around coming over the border illegally, if there wasn't a fear that they were going to be sent back, like if there was like, oh, why did you come over here illegally? Like why did you sneak over the border? What were your circumstances? Oh, wow. You were fleeing from a drug lord. You were fleeing from, an abusive husband. You were fleeing from whatever. You were just trying to come and make a living wage to send that money back to your families. Okay. Well, here are the steps you have to take to stay here. You've got 90 days to figure that out. If you can't figure that out, you got to go back.
That's where you stand.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's
because building a wall, by the way, for everybody watching and for you and for the entire universe, it's completely unrealistic.
Why?
And let me tell you why.
Yeah, tell me.
Rivers.
Geography. So logistic.
Along the border of Mexico and the United States of America are some of the largest rivers in the world. And they flow through Texas and Arizona and New Mexico and California. And you can't put a wall on a river.
What?
Crazy. Not only that, but there are indigenous tribes who have tribal land there. Hey, Jen Connolly. Tribal land. And those are sovereign nations. And guess what else you can't do? You just can't barrel through a sovereign nation.
That is correct.
Not legal.
Well, you shouldn't. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of logistical, also the Army Corps of Engineers, and I know this because I have some friends in the Army Corps of Engineers who have actually told me it's logistically impossible. So it's all just a bunch of banter that everybody, oh, by the way, is shaming everybody else for.
Both sides, both
ways.
Which
is the point. Both sides, both ways.
I think, gosh, I think super divisive right now.
And it is so nuanced. People don't understand the actual logistics of building a wall. Nobody's talking about that. They're just letting the right and the left hyper this thing up to the point where none of us can have a conversation because none of us are, you and I don't know the immigration process.
Right.
We were born here. Right. And we're white. So, we don't understand any of those things.
Totally. I have to say that I feel really irritated by this whole wall scenario. I roll my eyes.
A waste of time.
I think there's a lot of tantrums right now in
and
our administration. But it's just bogus. But as someone, the wall wasn't an emotional trigger for me because it was like, listen, if there's security and there's borders already, put up a wall. Okay, fine. Now, if we're talking to economics and financial and what's the investment, what does it take? And now we're like, okay, well, why wouldn't we invest in social services with that? So the money part, fine. But build a wall on what exists already, fine. Yep. Like that was not, whatever. That was not emotionally charged for me. How we are going about this is terrible. I mean, I can't wrap my head around it. To be honest, sometimes I feel like I don't have emotional capacity to read one more article about what's happening at the border. Like it breaks me. I am not without heart like that. Oh gosh, there's the messy middle of how do you do this well?
Yeah.
And if there's an answer, is anyone willing to find the messy middle answer?
I don't think so. Because literally the Senate Majority Leader, and I have it on Twitter, actually literally said, hold on, I gotta find it again.
Scrolling.
Wait,
you and Twitter.
I love Twitter.
I'm not on it. What's his name?
Oh, the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only reason that there's two things on Twitter I have to read.
Okay.
One, and this actually goes to a shame thing. But what it was, oh no, I can't find it. Because everybody's commenting about my comment about Lou Dobbs, which is the other thing I want to talk about today.
Okay.
But basically what happened was that the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said, there's no reason for us to waste our time voting about opening the government. Because it's just a waste of time to talk about it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at dinner with someone from the Department of Human Services last night who works in doing food stamps, the SNAP program. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how many federal workers they've seen every day for the past week coming in for food stamps because they're not getting paychecks and they don't have savings and they have no money. And now they need to get on food stamps. So guess how much it's costing the government to stay shut down? Well, not saving money. So it's this is a whole nother, we could get distracted from the shame thing and I don't want to do that.
No, it's okay.
So
no, it's okay.
Well, but I don't.
How do we not talk about what's happening right now? There is the
people who work for the federal government who have not been fired should be able to collect a paycheck. Should be able to collect a paycheck. Oh, look at all these comments.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Oh, God.
It's
Corey Olson's daughter's grandpa had to go to school in Vegas for 7 years. It might be state by state. Hello, not only brilliant, but I love your hair. Thanks. Thanks, Jen. Jen's in Ireland.
Hi, Jen.
Migration patterns of endangered species, burial grounds for Native Americans. The list goes on. So dumb. Yes. Yes, Stacy. Thank you for the endangered species. Hi, Liz. Oh, Mitch. Yes, Stacy. Oh, Middles. Food stamps are only funded for a couple more months. So it's going to run out in a couple more months. And then you're creating people who cannot. Housing is another problem with this government shutdown. So there is a part of HUD that literally cannot function without the government running, and so people are going to lose their rent.
Guys, that government's not going to get back up until there's a wall.
Well, I don't.
That is the biggest ultimatum
ever.
It's like
it's a tantrum.
It's like there was a chess game of politics, and it was frustrating and probably unethical before. It's like someone wiped off their side, tried to put all queens and say, I get control.
I win.
You have to do my thing.
It's authoritarian.
And
it's
suddenly,
creepy. It's awful.
Well, and everyone should be concerned that this is how it's being conducted.
Okay.
Everyone.
So from the conservative standpoint, this is what, speaking of shaming the other side.
Okay.
Lou Dobbs.
Tell me who that is.
He is a guy who is on Fox News. Okay. I know you don't. But this is what people are listening to, right?
That is true.
Okay, you don't like Fox News. I don't like Fox News.
Many
people are listening to Fox News.
People I love do.
This is Lou Dobbs, and people look up to him. Said Trump should declare a national emergency and simply sweep aside the recalcitrant left in this country.
I don't know what that word means.
Okay, well,
do you know what
recalcitrant?
Oh my gosh, you have the.
I have a dictionary app on my phone.
I go to dictionary
because I know what recalcitrant means in my own words, but I actually want to use the technical words. So recalcitrant. Recalcitrant means obstinately defiant of authority or restraint.
Yes, that is how I feel like government is being conducted right now.
But he's calling the left willfully and obstinately defiant of authority or restraint, and
because
saying,
they won't give the wall, friend. Just give the wall.
No, but here's the thing, and saying that the entire left should be wiped off and obliterated.
Yeah.
And guess what? Making people invisible or silencing is not going to be helpful.
Well, and that's also not serving the whole nation like we're supposed to do.
Liz says, remember the outrage over using executive orders by the Democratic president, but somehow this is okay. Yes.
Oh, but everyone plays that game. My side? What? They did what? Oh, their side?
What?
All hell.
No.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Here we come.
Yeah. So, Stacey Dotson, I know you just can't, but you should. So we are not. The other definition is difficult to manage or operate.
Everybody.
I am not difficult to operate or manage. I am opinionated and have some opinions, but I'm not difficult to operate or manage.
I don't know. I don't try to manage.
I'm a human. We're humans. We're not recalcitrant. We're people.
I think on this issue, okay. Well, I have lots of thoughts. I think on this issue, we should stop only reading the news.
Yes.
I think we should find independent sources that are not national media outlets.
Yes.
Because I don't think any of us should only read those and get information from those.
But the majority of people are. And how do we talk to those people?
Well, because when you read those, and they are tanted and slanted, pandering to their audience.
Right.
When you do that, we don't get accurate perspective, and we need to read a little of everything. Maybe you read Fox News.
No.
I read all kinds of outlets that I don't like, and I choose to read them, so that I don't get in my narrow tunnel vision over here with what I like to read.
Yeah, so we got to get out of the fishbowl, totally. Yes. Okay, so we could totally derail, and I want to stay on shame. Okay. I want to talk about shame, because I have a big shame. So here is my left.
You feel shamed?
I feel shamed. Ready? I feel shamed because
I don't know what this is.
I know you don't. I believe that we have gotten to the point as progressives that if one category of humans is uncomfortable, we have to make everybody feel uncomfortable to make them feel better in the name of being politically correct. So my example for that is when we talk about categorizing groups of people and putting them in silos. So one of my experiences recently, hi Melanie, I know you love talking shame, is I feel shamed by progressives and liberals by not wanting to identify my pronouns of she, her, hers, because I think identifying gender pronouns is bullshit. And I'm publicly saying that on my Facebook Live.
You're feeling shame within your own people.
Within my own community. Because I think identifying pronouns is horseshit.
Why?
Because I believe that it takes away my privacy and my choice to identify as whoever I want.
When you
by forcing me in a room full of people to talk about what my pronouns are.
This is fascinating to me. A couple years ago, I had a client and I didn't know whether to say he or she. It wasn't obvious. And I panicked. So I called them their first name all day long and tried to avoid pronouns at all costs. Then I reached out to a friend and I'd be like, do you have any resources to help me navigate this area? I'm uncomfortable. I don't know, but I want to honor people. And so she sent me to this guy and he was really insightful. He had an education that kind of equipped him with some tools. And he said, just ask what pronouns to use. I said, that sounds totally uncomfortable. Hi, my name's Amy. So are you a she or he? I mean, wouldn't that make them feel worse? Wouldn't that make them feel, and what if it's, I'm a she, duh.
Yeah, like, duh. What's the problem?
Totally duh.
Yeah.
And so I haven't done it, even though there have been opportunities for me to try to do that. And then there's the public, why don't you introduce yourself as, my name is Amy, I go by she or her. And I'd like everyone to introduce themselves. So you are against this.
I am. Because it's like walking up to someone and being like, hey, Amy, how old are you? Do you identify as Native American?
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, illegal in a work setting, P.S.
Right.
But also deeply uncomfortable. And so here's where I feel like I was just having this conversation with my best gay when I was driving, right? And I was just having this conversation because I feel like the response to the Republicans and the conservatives trying to erase the LGBT community is to hyper focus on identification and siloing ourselves in these categories to make us feel seen. And I don't think that's helpful. I don't enter a room and be like, hey, Dr. Melissa Bird, PhD, total bisexual. Or Dr. Melissa Bird, PhD, married to a man, but totally queer. Like, I don't do that. You don't do that. And I don't think we should be forced in a room full of strangers in a professional setting to do that.
Okay.
Because there's a force there. Because if you don't do it, are you trying to erase the people who are non-gender binary? What are you doing, Missy? You're such a privileged bitch. Why do you not accept this? What is your problem? And let me tell you, this is the first time I've ever done this publicly, and I know I'm going to take shit for it.
Okay, then how would someone like me use pronouns and not offend people? What if I called you?
I mean, the thing about it is I don't know the answer, Amy. Like, you walk up to someone and introduce yourself, and I think it's on them. I don't think it's on us to ask. I think it's on someone who identifies as non-gender binary, or who you look at and think that must be a man, but maybe it's a woman.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I'm Missy.
Yeah.
Just so you know, so we can just rip this Band-Aid right off. I identify as they, so don't ever call me she.
Yeah.
I think it's on people.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. If I call someone a he, not a she, or they, everyone loses their minds. Oh, Stacey, that's not a difference. That's a truth. That's an absolute truth. That's what I'm talking about. We don't get to shame each other for not getting the right pronoun. It's bullshit, and I'm tired of it.
You are.
That militant bullshit, if you don't get it right, I'm going to shame you and make you feel like crap. I think that's awful.
Do you think...
And that's why the Republicans laugh at the Democrats all the time. They're like, hey, look, they're getting all up in their progressive, politically correct ridiculousness. And we're over here like infiltrating everything. And by the way, there's an authoritarian dictator in the White House. But you all just go bitch about your days.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Jen Gonnelly. I completely agree with you, Melissa Bird. It is my story. If I don't tell that story, it's because I don't think it's any of your business. Signed, your totally married by friend. Thank you.
This is interesting.
Yeah. I think we are worse at shaming each other than the Republican Party is at shaming its own people. I think Democrats can shame each other all day long about not being open enough or liberal enough or progressive enough.
That was on my list.
What is it?
Well, it was how conservatives shame, not how I feel like we're shamed, but how we shame others.
Oh, yes.
And the number one thing is, I think actually, I was trying to think of what would be something I would share about how conservatives shame liberals, which I'm sure there's plenty. Actually, you just said a few. But really what came to mind is, no, we just shame each other. You're not conservative enough. Oh, you're not conservative enough if you believe this and this.
Like,
you
believe in you believe in global warming, so you're not conservative enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we both do that, huh? Both sides do that.
Yeah.
Shame, you're not liberal enough, you're not conservative enough.
So what, but to what end? Like, if we're going to keep doing this, the coddling of the American mind, it talks all about freedom of speech and shame from both sides. Thanks, Stacey.
I would love
that. It's great. Yeah. I don't think it's polite if you don't know or get it wrong, but I'm Southern. Oh, God bless you, Melanie. It's totally true. Mm-hmm. I do think it's polite to ask if you don't know or get it wrong, but I'm Southern. I'm with you, Melanie, but if you are not on the gender binary and you don't identify with the gender, I also feel like if that's not obvious, like if you're a total femme with big boobs and long hair and wearing makeup, but you identify as they, it's not my fault if I call you a girl. It's not.
I'm wondering if expecting someone to volunteer that information is also unfair.
Warning, we're getting somewhere.
Yes. I want
totally
multiple
unfair
kinds of stickers of different words. Bullshit. Someone sent us a sticker that has these.
Oh my God, I
just wonder if it's fair to expect them to self-identify. Like, hey, it's not on me. Why should I do that?
If I'm expected to get their pronoun right, they should have to self-identify. If it's not, that's just where I'm at.
So that's not us. So if that's you, please offer your insight into how you navigate this.
Oh, we're going to hear it. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, you probably will. I probably won't.
You might. You never know. Liz says people in general are shamers. We shame women, moms, religions, all kinds. Oh, yes. So can we talk about the next shame?
Yeah. Mine? Yours?
You go first.
Oh, the other one we've talked about thoroughly together, and that is I feel shamed as a conservative, although I'm not like super conservative anymore, but that conservatives are shamed for not being for women.
Ooh.
That we are actually anti-women because of our abortion positions. Shamed. Like I think I shared with you guys before the Women's March.
Yeah.
And feeling shamed because I didn't take a certain position, and then this walk the marches felt more for positions than me.
Well, so you did not identify as pro-choice, but you still wanted to march with the women's march, and you felt left out.
Yeah, not only left out. You not only left out. I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person because I can't empathize with women making hard decisions.
Interesting.
Let me tell you, I can.
Yeah, you can.
I am willing to emotionally feel that brokenness. I am.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the messy middle.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So I do feel like there is shame about that on conservatives. And I will let you know all the ones that I know personally in my community, which are many, is they are not heartless towards women.
Yeah. Yes.
So what about yours?
Women have issues with conservatives for more than abortion. That's true, Liz.
Women have issues. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's totally true.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah.
Yes. But abortion gets laid out as the flag a lot to lead into those other issues that liberal women have issues with conservatives for more than abortion, but the abortion is always the one they go to first. Like abortion is always it's like the flag. It's like the linchpin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I even avoided talking about it for a little while because we weren't sure where this was going to go. So I think that I think it's a critical choice, and not choice is a critical thing. Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah.
I think Republicans shame Republican women for being like, well, maybe we should talk about other things like contraception.
Yeah. We talked about that last time, if you missed it.
Like, yeah. So, Stacey agrees with Liz. Stacey's just all about agreeing with Liz today, which is hilarious.
What's your next one? How do you feel shamed?
I feel shamed from the Democrats and liberals and progressives because I have started to identify as a Christian woman.
You feel shamed for that? Like you are bad?
Absolutely.
Like you are.
Oh, yes. Because there is a whole anti-Christian component that is coming out of what's happening with Trump and what's happening with the conservative right that makes it so that I am ashamed and I do not feel like I can come out as a Christian and talk about my faith and talk about my faith in God publicly because I am afraid that people will judge me for it. Public people on the left. I feel shame because I am Christian.
I know many, 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 many Christians who take more liberal positions.
Well, hello.
And it makes
Jesus was like the social justice guru.
No, right.
Like
I wonder if that is another byproduct of who we listen to, because I think there are so many more people than you think who identify the same as you, but it looks so much like this and the loud voices are so much like this.
Yes, and then we've got Liz is saying I felt shamed for years for not being religious.
And in this country, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing, right? Like that is the thing.
I wonder if there's like some cosmic, like God could tell us, like, what about non-believing conservatives? They've got to be out there just like believing liberals. Like
I don't know.
We're led to think those.
We're supposed to stay in silos. Like this is the other thing. We're like supposed to stay separate.
Yeah. Gosh, I would love.
In the meantime, let's just wipe the liberals off of the. There's this so extremist argument to be like, go away, like wipe the conservatives off the face of the earth, or wipe the Republicans off the face of the earth, or wipe the Democrats off the face of the earth.
You know what's sad about that? If we came together and like took out our stakes out of the ground and came together, there's like hell or high water, we're figuring this out together. It'd be beautiful.
And it happens all the time.
It'd be better policy. It would be more representative of this nation and everyone's perspectives.
Yeah. If we had never going to happen. I don't know that it's never going to happen. I think the whole thing's going to crumble and it's going to get built back up different.
Listen,
that's what I think.
If this doesn't make it crumble, I don't know what will.
I'm telling you, it's crumbling. Yeah. Clearly.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are going to have to suffer in the process of the crumble, which makes me sad.
As does change. Most of the time, there has to be pain for change, and I am hoping that the pain brings about the right change.
I hope so.
Your examples were how you felt shamed internally within your own. Mm-hmm. Mine were examples of how I feel shamed from the other side. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that you feel shamed from conservatives?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I feel shamed from conservatives because I support anti-poverty and poverty initiatives that I think will actually work.
Do tell.
So we have been told recently, and it's a recent thing because I've watched it happen in my lifetime, that entitlement programs like Medicaid, Social Security, and food stamps are bad things because they're entitlements, and that you should just be able to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, get it together, and not use those programs. And if you use those programs, you should keep it a secret. Shame, right? Yeah. So telling people that we used food stamps when we moved to Oregon and have used food stamps and sometimes still need to is a shame thing.
You're not good enough to do it on your own.
I'm not good enough to do it on my own.
You are not providing
I'm not successful enough. Jim needs to drop out of school and go get a job. You know, did you know a majority of veteran families actually use food stamps? Mm-hmm. Because they are ill-equipped to come back to work after they leave the military? Mm. Yeah. Kimberly says it's awesome you do talk about it, though. The politicizing of Christianity has been utilized as a tool of oppression, but the individuals responsible for that are so far from living the way Jesus taught. That is very true.
I'm going to push back only on one thing. The way that Jesus taught. Listen, Jesus, if anything, was unclear on a lot of stuff. Like,
that is true.
It is not so crystal clear.
But people in leadership think it is. Right?
Well, people...
I mean, that's what you and I just read in that book.
We crave answers.
Right.
We crave answers, so we read into things the way that our brain works. We read into things along our belief system. We read into things, and so it becomes black and white. But what I've learned personally is it's not.
Right.
So even though the way of Jesus, what does that mean? I mean, that guy is complicated, and that's why if you're religious, you need the Holy Spirit to help you understand and get it, because the Bible is so complex, and Jesus's teachings were just in story form. I mean, it's like he made you need to ask and seek to find.
Well, and you do have to ask, and that's the thing. Like, not using the Bible as a policy tool is not.
No.
So, but the thing that's interesting, like Liz is like, I know conservatives and Christians on food stamps, totally. But do they? And Stacy earlier said abortion is not a conservative or liberal issue because it affects all women. It doesn't just affect liberal women.
Tell the media that.
Yeah, right. Well, this is also what Stacey's saying. Like, that doesn't sell with lobbyists or the media.
Nope.
And I think that that's true. And I think that this is why we have to have big, huge conversations about how we feel shame so that we can talk publicly about how we've been shamed by these policies and by this rhetoric of erasure so that we can stop shaming each other and start working together to tell our elected officials what we want and what we need.
So you feel shame from the conservative folks for
supporting anti-poverty initiatives.
But what's the shame of how on earth could they shame you for that?
Because they're a waste of money, because they're an entitlement, because they're for special people. And people waste them. People use them, especially women of color.
Yeah.
How can you support something that supports the welfare queen? Which is a total myth, by the way. There's no such thing as welfare.
Well, I've never heard that, and that sounds bizarrely bogus.
It's bizarrely racist, actually, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
We need someone of color to have that conversation with us.
We do.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people. You got any more?
Well, a few. I started making a really long list before.
I have a long list too, but
guns.
But
guns
we're at 37 minutes already.
Good golly. Guns are another one where how could you like your guns more than you like your kids in school?
Isn't that the weirdest thing ever?
How could you want rights to your guns more than you care about children surviving to the afternoon bus stop? And that is a narrow-minded way to think of it. It just is. If you sit down and talk with people about their gun rights who strongly believe in it, it is insightful. If you can do that without anger, it is insightful.
It is. It's very interesting.
I am kind of in the middle of the road, and to be honest, I had a really hard time understanding people who wanted not a lot of gun restriction at all. I'm like, listen, why, where are you coming from? And it was good for me to ask a particular person on Facebook, really willing to engage, kind, and they gave me answers. I'm like, I could get from your perspective why you feel that. I do. So I feel like there's a lot of shame about the guns because there's emotions involved. Just like all of these issues are very emotional. And when we tie emotion, I think we get wrapped up into it. And there's like, how could you think the opposite?
Yep.
How could you think that? So I think that's hard. But we need the emotion to be passionate and make change.
Yeah.
So
look at you. You're like, oh, woo!
I don't.
Emmy's getting all lit up.
You were lit up earlier. We're just
I like it. It's good.
What about one more from you?
Well, the abortion thing is such a big thing.
That's a big one.
Because I think that from conservatives, when you call yourself pro-choice, you're immediately labeled as a baby killer and a murderer.
Yeah.
But there is also a chunk of the left that thinks that we should all identify as pro-abortion.
Yes.
But I have a huge problem with that because I'm not.
Right.
And so I get shamed from both sides for taking a much more moderate position on that. And it freaks people out.
You're not liberal enough.
I'm not liberal enough, and I'm not conservative enough. Yeah.
That should be a bumper sticker.
I know, right? But this is the all or nothing thinking that we have been trained that like before social media, we actually had these conversations. People actually sat around the room like and talked about this stuff and hashed it out with their neighbors, right? Well, before we had TVs in all the houses, and when you could just listen to the radio to get your information, people had to sit around and talk. You had to walk down the street to your neighbor's house to find out what they thought and felt.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I feel like this all or nothing to approach to the way we talk about almost every single policy issue. Mm-hmm. It's not helpful. It's destroying our country.
Yeah. You said that, when we stop talking to each other.
Yeah.
Well, friends, guess what? That was such a good segue.
I know.
You didn't hear it, but I heard it.
I heard it. It was so good.
We're going to facilitate an evening of talking to each other.
We are. And you know what?
And Missy texted me in a panic this week. She's like, I think there's more liberals than conservatives coming. You need to bring more people.
I did. And guess what? You brought more people.
I did.
Oh, yeah. There's lots of people coming. So we still have tickets left. So
February 25th.
No,
Friday.
January 25th.
Wow, January 25th. A couple weeks here in Dundee.
It's coming.
If you can't make it, I hoped that some way we can share and invite the experience with you all who are in a different place.
We should take it live or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got there?
So I've got the things we're going to talk about. Okay. So give people a little outline of what we're going to talk about.
I love it. There's some good comments on here, and maybe we'll go back and give thoughtful answers. Thank you guys for contributing.
Bree says we're shamed to not talk about politics or religion anymore.
It's dangerous.
It's impolite, right? And I just don't think, I think that's ridiculous. You were told there were few discussions except for with women in my world. That was Liz's experience. That was not my experience. So I wasn't told. There was lots of, I always was wandering around talking to other people about stuff. Maybe that's what I do. Maybe that's my jam.
Thank you for doing that. Here's how we're going to be talking.
Yeah, in January we're going to riff on unsafe topics. So we're going to talk about how to riff on unsafe topics like we do. We're going to talk about being safely uncomfortable and not being attacked.
We're going to talk about assumptions and stereotypes that we have of each other. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have an opportunity to tell how we feel misunderstood for whatever reasons.
And we're also going to talk about how to recognize the humanity in people to widen the circle of conversation. So how you can do that in your own sort of world.
Yeah. So we're going to model it a little bit, get together and choose to be uncomfortable and choose to listen and truly understand each other, because it is hard to hate people up close.
So it's going to be
impossible.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So
yeah.
And it will be a safe place, and there will be some treats. So that'll be nice.
One of our good mutual friends, Marley, says it's not really a safe place. It's a brave place. We are creating a brave place where you show up brave, because is it safe to be vulnerable? Not necessarily.
No, but
we're creating a brave space where you can show up and we're all brave together.
I love Marley.
I know. Love you, Marley.
She's so good.
Okay, so we'll see you in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yay.
Buy tickets. We'll put a link in here. It's super cheap. It's just a cover facility. And let's spread this. Let's do this together. Let's get in a room.
Yay.
Yeah.
Bye.